Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is at the best of their health and enjoying the life to the fullest, like today's topic, Luvuzindagi. I am Dr. Prashant Salvi, consultant laparoscopic and metabolic surgeon at Jupiter Hospital, Thane. And I'm the co-host for today's exciting session with Dr. Kritika Desai, who herself is a pain management therapist and pain management physician at Jupiter Hospital. And she also loves to spend Zindagi to the fullest because of her love towards trekking and also for all the extracurricular activities. Unlike me, UMANG doesn't require not much of introduction because it's become a quite common name among all the medicos because of all the sessions, the interesting topics, and the sensation, the quite interesting sessions they take and they conduct on every last Saturday of the month. But for people who have just joined or they have just subscribed to the Facebook and YouTube channel by the name Empowering Medicos UMANG, for them, I would like to tell that UMANG is a brainchild of Dr. Gauri, and it's been already an year. Now, for the second year, this is the first session of 2022 and the 13th session since the time it was started. And because of all the various good topics like health, finance, motivation, and spirituality, teamwork, and so many others, it's become quite a interesting thing for all the doctors and for all the other communities to understand and to get used to these UMANG sessions. And then people really look forward for the last Saturday for these UMANG sessions. And it's basically a platform for the doctors, by the doctors, and to help nurture all the dimensions of health. So what happens is, besides the workshop and all the training which we regularly attend to update ourselves, one needs to adjust the self-care compass. Time spent with ourselves to help heal and autocorrect is also very important. And this is what the today's session is on, Love You Zindagi. So I would request Dr. Kritika to introduce our special guest for today. So over to you, Dr. Kritika.
Thank you, Dr. Prashant. Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Kritika Doshi. And as Prashant has said, that we are looking at nurturing every dimension of our personality. So healthy mind with a healthy body. As doctors, when we become senior, we find that something is missing. And then by the time we are ready to retire, we find a lacunae in our life because we have been so busy setting up practice, getting and tending to patients that we tend to forget ourselves. We don't have time to nurture our own likes, passions, hobbies, and we actually don't even have time to nurture our hobbies. So we really are at an empty nest once the children go away and we have nothing to do. But things are changing, life is changing, and there are people who are enjoying life to their fullest. So you don't find a happy life, you have to make it happy. And we have but one life, so we have to live it, enjoy it. And we need to do more things that light us up inside. We don't need external stimulation. It is something inside us that burns and makes us want to do certain things. Today, at the first anniversary of UMANG, we have a very, very lively person. So he is a person who loves every aspect of life. He runs marathons and he has run at least 20 half marathons, not just in Mumbai, but all over the world. And he just doesn't run. He tries to better his record every year. And he runs in adverse conditions in different countries with different varying temperatures. And he keeps bettering himself all the time. He also is a good cyclist, running at high altitudes, cycling at high altitudes. And he was part of the WOW Iceland team in the finisher part, which runs or cycles, sorry, not runs, but they cycle through the whole perimeter of the whole island. So this is a person from India, from a warm temperate climate, who is cycling in the coldest country in the world. He has also cycled in the highest ghats and the highest passes of India in Leh, Ladakh. And he has raised almost 2.5 crores for cancer children through his cycling. So he has a good heart as well as a fit body. He also is an avid trekker, trekking to the highest peaks with very, very harsh conditions. He has gone to Stoke Kangri at 20,000 feet, which is quite difficult. And you can see in these pictures, so these tents are flimsy. They don't keep anything out. All the elements are inside. And to be standing like this is a big feat. I can tell you that, because I had been to 13,000 feet and I couldn't stand the cold. So this person is really, really brave. And he has been trekking every year. He just told us that he is again ready to go for another trek and actually ice climbing. Next slide, please. He also plays cricket and he also is a musician. So outdoor activities, he strums the guitar and he moonlights as a backup vocalist and guitarist for a rock band called the Flunkies. So who is this person? We are meeting today Dr. Abhay Nene, who along with all this is an orthopedic surgeon. And not just a plain orthopedic surgeon. He graduated as an orthopedic surgeon and I have known him for a long time, but he has evolved. And usually we say it is women who get better with time. But Dr. Abhay Nene has become not only better, but very interesting and a wonderful human being as he is becoming more and more mature. So he has trained in subspecialty of spine surgery in Bombay and multiple centers across the world. His CV actually will take up a lot of time. So let me just skim through some of his academic accolades. His areas of interest are pediatric spinal deformity, spinal tumor reconstruction, tuberculosis, and the osteoporotic spine. He has authored over 24 international publications. He was awarded the Educator of the Year title by AO Spine in 2018. Then he is also a council member of the AO Spine AP, one of the world's leading academic organizations. And he's in charge of spine training centers and fellowships. Along with this, he visits multiple hospitals and he also visits nursing homes to help his fellow colleagues. And after all this, he still finds time to do all his activities. And he believes that life has to be experienced, not lived on the internet or read in books. So I will now give it over to Dr. Abhay Nene. Abhay, I would like you to tell us about your life. And when most of us doctors neglect ourselves and our health, how is it that you keep yourself motivated and do everything?
But over before that, Kritika, that huge introduction, no, I'm looking for this guy around me. Because I'm just a regular guy, just like you and Prashant and everyone else who's, who do such kick-ass stuff. And it's just that today I'm on this side of the table. So I'm the guy who's, being hoisted on the flag. But I think all of us, everyone who's even logged in, I'm sure does. I mean, I know half a dozen people on this platform already. And I know all of them are doing some really crazy stuff themselves, trekking, running, workouts. There's so many of us doing so many good things. So I'm just going to share with you some parts of what I do, and then maybe we can share notes. And obviously the whole world knows that we are very good friends because that introduction was like, ooh, almost like an obituary. It was like super. So thanks for that. So yeah, I mean, you just said, no, that you live only once, but I think you die only once. You live forever. So you want to make the most of that entire life that you have. And, we grow up to be doctors or grow up to be orthopedic surgeons or so. But then you don't want to keep that as your identity, because your identity has to be, the life that you want to lead, and you should not be, what's the right word, pigeonholed into, doing something that is stuck with a label on you, which means that though you should have a priority in your life and you should consider one thing that you do as the most important, thing for you, you should have so many other things available to you, so you've lived your life at its fullest. And I think we as doctors tend to forget that the most, because ours is a far more effort intensive branch, and we tend to invest so many years, and then you come out of that and then you're now ready to practice when your friends are 10 years into settle, 10 years settled and making money, and then you're just caught in that rat race that you tend to run it so hard that you forget that there's a world going around you. So I think that that very basic motto is what we all got to believe in, that it's you who's living a life, and it's not a doctor who's out there to do his job. I mean, that's the philosophy. So like you rightly said, when I came out, it's, in India, it's like 10, 12 years of education after matriculation, 15 years, I think 16 years to become, and then spine fellowship, etc. And it's very easy then to get trapped into the practice pattern, to want to make money and to want to settle down and, to show your parents, show your relatives, show your friends that, you're also worth your time. Because honestly, at 28, 29, you're a spine surgeon, but no one knows you and no one cares, and who's going to get a surgery done from you, so it's, you want to then push your way through and that's the time that you got to really, that you got to raise that awareness. What do you say, Kritika?
I agree, totally, absolutely. So tell us, how do you keep yourself fit with all your commitments, with your surgeries, with your post-op rounds? When do you find the time and how do you manage it?
So I'll speak for all actually I speak for all surgeons, because surgeons are medical sportsmen, right? So if you go to cop, for example, and that cop is to ask for help because there was a problem, some crime, and the cop is pot-bellied and ungainly, maybe, with tremors in his hand or something, you're just not going to be okay asking him to, help you. Ditto if you go to a soldier or whatever. So, or a sportsman who has amnesia or Parkinson's cannot match up to the surgery, as you jolly well know, very different from your science, is a very touch, feel, hands, physical job, right? It's a job that involves your senses, and it involves not as much of the stuff in the skull as it involves of hands, ability to control your physical body. So just like a sportsman is expected to maintain a certain level of fitness, there is a norm that surgeons need to be fit to be able to deliver the right kind of surgery. And I think that is a very basic thing which we never think about. And in fact, there is now, a movement in the West where they're going to ask for, aside of your regular CME, they're going to ask for physical fitness tests for surgeons. I mean, imagine that you go into a surgery for your disc and your surgeon is coming out of a road rage, or if he's mentally unstable, or if he's, one hand is, he's got carpal tunnel syndrome and he's not able to grip the knife or whatever. I mean, that doesn't go well. So to cut a long story short, we realized very early that to be able to stand for long hours, to be able to, do fine work at 6 and 7 hours into surgery, your fitness becomes a priority. So you need to somewhere start. So in fact, even as postgraduates, orthopods are, those traction weights that we have them bundled up in the OT, and we are borrowing weights, in between while the patient is getting induced. And that's where it all begins for us. And then it kind of moves into the next level where then you're looking for serotonin and endorphins to calm your stress, because once you're into practice and you start doing sometimes harm to patients, sometimes as patients going down after surgery, the results don't go the way you like. That stress can be tremendous. I mean, you all know that. And once again, one of the easier ways of being able to tackle that stress is to go and bust your ass out there and, let the endorphins take over. And so many positive thoughts come. In fact, I find most solutions to my days or weeks problems on that long weekend run where, you're just with yourself, and so many answers come to you which seemed impossible. So I think it's physical as well as mental health that goes hand in hand when you go out there, doing exercises or sports or any of that.
So what I remember when I was doing my residency, or maybe now also, is an image, an orthopedician is, kuch toota to I'll fix it. But you talk about academics, no, I will talk it later on or maybe some other day. But then looking at your the number of publications, the number of academic work which you are into with the fellowship, sir, how do you actually manage to keep that balance between academics and the practice? I mean, many of us who are joining or who are just starting their career, they really juggle between the time to find time for academics, to keep data, they're running behind numbers. So how do you balance, or maybe what you can suggest all those people?
Yeah. So I must confess that when I say I do academics, it's on a totally different page compared to the physicians in this group, because orthopedic academics is at a very, very, very basic level. Though having said that, I must tell you that when I joined residency, I was given this given this article which says orthopedic surgeons as strong as an ox and almost twice as intelligent. So that got me thinking, you know, that the general consensus amongst people is that the guys who get the best marks in general surgery actually do orthopedics. So it's like the top 5 or 6 guys. And then the IQ seems to plummet very rapidly. And then you suddenly become I want to fix, I want to screw, I want to cut guy. And so I mean that already is a disclaimer on your shoulder. It's a chip on your shoulder when you get in. And then I think what really triggers you is peer respect, because there's all sorts of practitioners in our city and in our country, and you all know that as much as I do. And there's a lot of stuff going on which should not be discussed on a public forum. So if a patient goes and tells someone else, oh, this guy's the best doctor in the world, you and me are not going to care two hoots. I mean, you'll be happy about it, but you know that it could come out of many misunderstandings. I mean, the patient may not really know who you are. It's very easy to impress lay people once you're that high subspecialty. But it's really if you can impress your peers, which is peer respect. And that's what I've been pining for from day zero. And somehow it got ingrained in me. So to get peer respect, you can't speak well in a clinic, or you can't look good in a clinic. You got to be able to generate some work that, or show the world what work you've done, which is different from others. And you got to be able to introspect, got to be able to share your complications. You got to be able to, so one was the hunger or the need for peer respect. And the other was, of course, mentorship. I think all of us are only as good as our mentors. And if we find a good mentor, I had Dr. Bhojraj. He's the god of spine, and he's still the god of spine. And aside from being a god of spine, he's a god, like per se, god, full stop. So, his outlook towards life was all this, that you got to take a Saturday, Sunday off, no matter if it's your first year in practice. You got to do, things outside your comfort zone. You got to try and do non-academic things. You got to continuously introspect into your own work and publish it as much as you can. So it came in very early. And I think the message that I want to give, if I had to younger people, is this: that look around for peer respect. If your peers call you a good doctor, then you're making it. If people around in general call you a good doctor, it's not necessarily a good thing. And look for a mentor who you can emulate. You just have to shut your eyes and follow the path, because the path is already laid. And it makes your life so much easier to to work around. Like, you don't have to now look for look for methods, because the method's already in place. Did you have a mentor, Prashant? You have a mentor?
Yeah, I have, and I am very happy for that also, because the thing what the mentor gives you, imbibes in you, that always goes a very long run. My madam was always there. Pinky madam was always guided me in a very right direction. Right from the day when I saw her for the first time for my fellowship in minimal access, and then I went to pediatrics. It was all under her guidance, that she was telling me, this is the thing which you need to follow, these are the things which you need to do, these are the publications which you need to do. So the mentor plays a very important role. I definitely agree, and I think everybody would take this as a very interesting thing to understand, and a very important aspect of life.
Yeah, like what I'm saying is, supposing I spend a whole day trying to write an article on the work that I've done, I'm always wondering whether this is going to turn out right. By spending this day and not going to practice, am I missing out more? What's the bang for buck? But then you see the finished product. That's your mentor, who's been doing this for so many years. And you see, oh, by doing this, he or she has reached that pedestal. Then it should be the right thing. And it makes your second guessing much easier. So I think, and that's where the responsibility comes back onto you, Prashant, you and Kritika and everyone, that you got to then be the mentor. You got to pay it forward. And just like you have had a role model, you should now become a role model for other people, so that the legacy continues. You're going to keep having bad doctors getting produced because of the high pressure of work and money and everything else in Bombay City.
Correct, sir. I mean, truly agree with whatever you said.
Absolutely. So, Abhay, you are doing such spine surgeries. You are doing spine surgeries. You're doing very, very microscopic work also. So your fingers and your tactile reception is very important. So when you go cycling in cold weather, you're going ice climbing now. Aren't you scared that you might, damage your fingers?
Yeah.
What is it that makes you go into such harsh conditions?
Yeah. So I totally get that. And when I did Stoke Kandy, that was my first 6,000er. I really was at the edge of saying that I want to go back because I was starting to get Raynaud's in my fingers, and that was what I couldn't afford. And I think I totally get what you're saying, and I haven't solved that problem yet. But I think what I get out of this is far more than the risk of of everything from losing fingers to dying. So what I typically do, because I'll just tell you the whole thing, that why you want to do high altitudes, why you want to go in death zones, and walk on the edge. Someone famously said that if you're not sitting on the edge, you're occupying too much space. So you want to always try to walk that line, which is your zone of discomfort, because in surgery, for us, when we or for everyone, when we're operating, your first couple of hours of surgery are they just pass on because it's just standard stuff. And you need to raise your game in that fourth or fifth hour, and when you're fatigued. Number two is complications. The bad ones, they happen again at towards that end of the surgery. They don't happen when you're exposing or when you're doing a laminectomy. They really happen when you're like all around the cord, or there's a blood vessel, busting. And at that, so when you are fatigued mentally and physically, you suddenly have to raise your game to the next level, not to the average level, to the next level. And if you can do that and do it calmly, you're able to do a good job at that point. And this is a pure surgeon's heart speaking. And I think whoever is, who's a surgeon here will have been through this. Now, you can't train for this, right? You can't keep busting vessels to train to be able to do it better the next time. So to simulate this, I think the closest that you can do is do this kind of edgy business. If you're like, when you're walking on the ridge of Stoke Kangri, and you see, like big drops down there, you see icicles, and you kind of overcome that fear. And when you overcome that fear, which is a fear of, in fact, of life and death, then to be able to handle a death-defying complication becomes much easier. It doesn't mean that you want to make complications. It just means that your senses come to you very quickly. You don't get that crazy adrenaline rush, and you're pretty calm. You don't yell, you don't scream, you don't throw instruments. Then you make the right judgment and right moves. You still, may not do well, but you've done your best. You've been the best version of the surgeon in you when the chips are down. So that is what high altitude mountaineering gives to you. And that's the sole reason why we keep going back. And, most people in the group are doctors and surgeons, and they keep going back. But on the flip side, there is this constant threat of something going wrong, because, you've seen that in our colleagues, weather, etc., is not your friend, and you may be fit, you may be lucky, but the weather could go bad. So, and then the other is this hand business. And just today I was shooting, because we're going to minus 20-degree location this weekend. And I'm very worried about hands, because we'll be working with hands on ropes in the ice. And there's special gloves, there are warmies that you put inside. But I think, Kritika, I don't have a very good answer. I think that's one thing that I don't.
I think you answered well. It is the mental toughness. It is the mental resilience that gets built. Once you go into that harsh condition, you're absolutely alone. No matter how big your group is, it is you against the elements. And so yes, Prashant, you were asking something.
No, but I was saying, the way he was saying the poise in the OT, the way when you calm down in a situation where everything is required to work in a way, not throwing instruments and everything, I'm sure your fellows and all must be really, really impressed. And I just wanted, out of the blue, how they come to the hospital. Did they cycle to the hospital every day, or you take some kind of session?
So it's funny, but it's not true, because even I don't cycle to hospital, because it's hard to. Most of our hospitals don't have good showers, and when you reach it,
right.
But I'll tell you the other part of it, that just like a fellowship is a mentorship, it's a mentorship in how to live your life also. So I can tell you that 80% of my fellows over the last 15 years have got into running or cycling or gymming or something or the other, or some musicians. Right now, we have a flautist. He plays a flute for All India Radio. Either music or some soft skill, they are coaxed into doing. And we actually encourage them to take time out. So if someone says, "Sir, I want to take leave." Why? So because I'm going for a trek in the Uttaranchal. I'll say, "Oh yeah, sure, go." So they're encouraged actually. And the way I try to seep it in, side say, is that after every Monday when we meet, after the weekend is done, because nobody works Saturday, Sunday, first thing I tell them is what all I did on Saturday, how much I cycled, how much I ran, what workout I did. And I just look at them waiting for a feedback. And then, the new guys who are not there because they've just sat on their butts all weekend. Then the next time they come back saying that, no, even I went for a walk, I tried this or whatever. So, you want to round up their character and not just teach them spine surgery. And that's a part of the training.
Correct. But then what, another thing, suppose you plan for something, you plan for a trek, or like I said, you were saying that Saturday, Sunday, you usually don't work, and that is how it is. But then suppose you get a call that there is a patient and an emergency thing, then how do you cope up with that? How do you plan? You have to go, but you can't say no to the patients also at the same time. And this is where everyone gets caught up. So how do you plan that way then?
So I think, it's not an accident that you can live a life of as a multiple facet person. It has to be a very planned and very, it should be something that you want to do and you have set it up and then it happens. It's not by chance. So the way I have set it up is, number one, my specialty is a cold specialty. Being a spine surgeon in private practice, we almost don't get any emergencies. The other is that we have a group, and I think this is the statement that I will stick my head out and say that if you want to really live a life outside your profession, you should be totally willing to sacrifice the lucrative offering that came your way. For example, if I had to go tomorrow to Leh and there's a person with a bad disc who needs surgery, which translates into XXX into my bank account, I should still be able to say, you know what, I'm not here, but there's a very good doctor. I'm responsible for him. He will take care of you. I will be in the loop. And you should be able to step out of that and not feel that you lost money or lost your business or lost a patient. And that's the only way you can really, make time to, do the stuff that you want. Otherwise, if you open a shop on Sunday, your shop is going to be full, Prashant. If you start an OPD Sunday morning to evening, 100% you're going to have patients. So there's no end to how much, that can be drawn out of you. So see, I'm talking from the other end of the spectrum. I'm sure there are guys who feel otherwise and they feel that you got to be dedicated and, but I think that the world can go on without you. I don't think the buck stops with you. And you see that over and over again that you feel that, oh, so many people are waiting. Like I go to Wadia Hospital and, there it's like lines and lines of kids waiting. And when I had this COVID last year sometime and I had to be 15 days off, work went on and people still did, like my colleague Arjun came and did the surgeries very well and I was not missed and everything. So you realize that you're unnecessarily taking the thing on your head and you need not. And it's in a way a leveler for your ego, because it's your ego that tells you that, look, I'm the best guy and my patients need me and I'm this and I'm that, but that's not really true. So once you switch off and once you're gone, you realize that your patients, those who wait for you will wait for you, and those who can't will have treatment done elsewhere, and all is well. Everything goes on fine.
Right. So that's very important. It's very important what you said.
Also, group practice, Group practice is a very good thing for us, because if we have peers or colleagues with us who think or offer a similar mindset of a service to your patient, you're kind of covered. And so we formed this VR Spine group, and there are 6 consultants across the city who are covering many hospitals, and that kind of takes care of it. Okay. So it's a planned move because everyone in the group likes to take time out and do their things.
That's right. That's the way forward, I think.
Yeah,
it is. Abhay, there's a question from our audience. Now, I don't think people can make out your age from your face and from your activities, but you are quite senior. So what would you like to tell surgeons who are just starting out in their practice? How to deal with anxiety before the procedure, the fear of something going wrong, complications, and how to have a good work-life balance? What would you tell them?
But Kritika, there are 2 different questions, because anxiety before a procedure, means before a surgery, is a different thing. And making a balance of your life as a whole is, so I think anxiety before surgery, Prashant, you're going to have to help me on this. All surgeons go through that.
Yes, exactly. So the anxiety, I feel anxiety, everybody will be anxious before the surgery. And that is also a good thing, because then you are knowing that whatever you want to do is, this is not, you don't take things for granted. This is what I probably feel, that
because every surgery is different, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think everybody should have that particular fear in mind so that they don't take the surgery casually, because how much ever surgeries you have done before, the patient is facing the surgery for the first time and that he expects everything to be the best. So I said little fear from my side, I feel little fear is still necessary. You should not be overconfident.
Yeah, it keeps you on your toes.
How to cope up, I think you are the better judge here who would be telling us how to cope up with the anxiety.
No, I think that you make that anxiety work for you. I mean, just what you were saying, that don't let anxiety work against you. There's external pressure and internal pressure. So you should not have external pressures, because there's no one else in the room who can operate better than you, however junior you are. Else you would not have been doing the case. Let's put it that way. And so there's no external pressure. Like the nurse may say, "Arey, wo doctor acha karta hai," but the nurse doesn't know what. So it's you. But internal pressure is actually good. It's a good thing, because it makes you perform in the best form of yourself. You're like you rightly said, taking care. You're not being callous. You're not being. Having said that, I think all of us are learning, right? So even today, every year I do at least one surgery which I've never done in my life, a new surgery, because surgery is evolving and we got to keep up to date, etc. So you can't do harm to the patient, I think, by experimenting, and you need to have some cover with you in any form when you're doing a surgery that is slightly out of your zone, at least in the beginning. And I think that's the message out there, that use the pressure for your own sake and we let it work for you, and keep some cover so that you're not caught completely off guard if there's a problem, especially because complications don't come announced. They just happen, and the easiest things can go wrong.
Okay.
And as far as work-life balance is concerned, I think I said that right in the beginning, that you got to go out there with the mindset that you're a person and you're not a surgeon. You're a person, and a person needs to do all these things before he dies or before he leaves the world or whatever. You're blessed that you're a human being in this world, and you cannot have not seen the northern lights. If there's northern lights in this world, it's a wonder of the world. You bloody well figure out how you're going to go and see it. You cannot have not gone on the Himalayas. You cannot have. So today, though, I've done quite a few things. I think I would say 80% of the stuff that that's still to-do list. There's so many things. You want to go to the poles, you want to do deep underwater, deep sea dive. There's so many things that you want to do, and that life and time is too short for it. So if you go out there with that vision and you don't try to link your success with your success in practice, but success as a happiness quotient, or what you're looking for, then I think and that has to be the seed sown right in the beginning. Otherwise, suddenly you're 50 or 45 or whatever. Because see, the time between 30 and 50 is a time that you're trying to set your practice. And after 50, sometimes your mind or body is not ready to allow you to do the things that you could have done. So you got to take this initiative early, and it should be a preemptive plan and not like I said, not an accident. So I think for whoever is interested, and we mentor a lot of students. We do scoliosis week, and we inculcate this in all of them. And it's good to know that Indian surgeons or Indian students today are very happy to accept this lifestyle, and they don't really they don't really feel that this is not meant for me. They all try to do things. And what has been your experience? I think the new generation rocks. I think they are looking at life in a very different way than we did, and that's a good positive thing.
So, but this is what is actually a very good thing, to take breaks, do your work, come back again, get refresh your energy, take a break, then come back. But what makes you go back to the mountains over and over? I mean, you take a break, you go to the mountains, come back, do your surgeries, then how do you plan? I mean, you plan twice a year, or what is the schedule like? Is it some particular routine you follow to go back to the mountains, or what makes you go back?
Yeah, so the routine is that there are 2 mountain trips every year. Okay. There are 2 trips to the mountains, and that started with a very basic Sahyadri, then Uttaranchal, and now. But now it is nothing under 18,000. Like if there's under 18,000, I'm not wasting time.
I've already done that way.
Yeah. So I think I moved from Sahyadri in school to Uttaranchal in pre-med or med. And then it's been like I did the Everest Base Camp. And after that, it's always been above that. And, the peace, the phone doesn't work in the mountains. You're back to raw basics. You're living in that flimsy tent. You're, sleeping on the rock. No matter there's a sleeping bag, you're still pokey. You're shivering. I don't want to describe the potty, but things can be really uncomfortable in the mountains. and it takes you back to such basics that if you can, if you can pull it off over there, when you come back home, you suddenly appreciate your home. You appreciate the, the blessings that you've had in life. Just sitting on this chair, I'm blessed. And things that I took for granted, I suddenly start revisiting it in a different light if I've been to the harshest of conditions. Though that's not the sole reason that you go because the inherent beauty is so much. It just washes you clean. It kind of washes your mind clean of all the accumulated, scum that kind of builds up because of your social pressures. And there's no telephone working, so you're not caught up with social media or any of that. The air is absolutely beautiful, and the visual delight is just next level.
Sorry to disturb.
Yes.
So you're an orthopedic surgeon, and you scrub and scrub and scrub so much. How do you deal with what you just said in the mountains, where you don't get running water? So do you feel that you need to wash your hands all the time? Yeah. How do you deal with that? It's something
that's the thing.
Doctors,
I think.
First question.
Yeah, Dr. Minu, you hit the nail on the head. That we get so obsessed about scrubbing and every little dirt, and I personally scrub like 11 or 12 minutes before I get into surgery. But I don't want to get addicted to that lifestyle, and this is the way I can de-addict. And more importantly, when I'm scrubbing, it's for someone else's health. When I'm in a mountain, it's for my health. I am happy to be callous about my own health. Having said that, mostly wherever we go, though there's no running water, we make sure that the availability of water is there. There are Sherpas. So the last summit that we did, the advanced base camp was at 19,500. So obviously there was, but we had paid for high-end Sherpas who actually went and broke ice and melted it and gave us water. And then of course the mountain ways are slightly different, and they are quite similar to how clean animals live. So if they can be clean, we can be clean. I remember a time when we were doing one of the high passes, and one of our Sherpas just kept on picking up some plants on the way. And then he had like a big collection. I said, "What the hell are you doing?" So he said, "Ye aaj ka bhaji hai, raat ka." So we made the bhaji out of that and ate it because it was a real remote environment. But I think, I think it's good to de-addict from your comfort zone and, live the life up there. So you want to keep going back because it's addictive. And I also want to de-addict from that, I must confess. And I want to have because even during the lockdown, we did the mountain. So I want to have like maybe a 2-year lacuna where I don't go to the mountain, because you should not get slave to anything. But I think what happens is that physically you're fit, so you're going, and automatically a time will come when you can't go. So I'm kind of being a bit greedy about it.
No, so that's what the physical thing you said. But what is your fitness mantra? I mean, what advice would you give to all those beginners or doctors who are planning to go for fitness training, or how do you manage the endurance training? I mean, what advice on diet would you give to give?
Yeah, so actually mountaineering or running marathons or cycling in the hills is a byproduct of fitness. You cannot say that is my fitness mantra, because if you're not fit, you can't even do those things. And fitness really begins in your house. And fitness is something that, you need to wake up to. Like, I think all of you all would know that after 35, we start losing muscle mass if we don't work out.
Yeah, right.
And it's startling that after 50, you can lose up to 7% of your muscle mass every year. And which means that if you're not running forward, you're going to go back. So you're up to 35, you take it for granted because, if you're not working out, you're still status quo. But here you start. So that's number one. And number two, as an orthopedic surgeon, I know that that in your musculoskeletal system, the stuff that holds you up, the home that you live in, bones, joints, ligaments, they all degenerate, and nerves, they all degenerate in a one-way street, and there's no way to regenerate them, period. Dobara mat puchna. Whatever you do, stem cells, whatever. But muscles are the only tissue in your body that have a regeneration potential unto death. So even a 90-year-old guy, if he starts working out, albeit slowly, he'll develop, strong muscle. So that's where the money lies, right? That's where if you start investing in muscles, they will start compensating for your flagging musculoskeletal system and keep you upright and erect. You don't want to be climbing mountains, but you don't want to be on a wheelchair when you're 85. So that investment has to come in before 35, while you're on the high road, and not when because it gets harder and harder as you after the peak and you start going down. And I think the fitness mantra, if I had to say, would be that all of us should delve around 4 basic elements of fitness. One is endurance. And endurance is anything that you do for a long time where your heart rate goes up and It could be walking, it could be anything, but it better be time and distance measured. It can't be कि मैं आज आधा घंटा घूम के आया, कितना किया. So then you compete against yourself and make it better. Remember that you can never be the best. There's always someone doing better than you. Just compete against yourself. So you could start with 30 minutes, 3 kilometers, 5 days a week walks. That's it. The second is strength training, which we tend to miss out, especially the ladies in the group, because it seems like it's a man's thing. But, unless you do resistance training, especially for the upper torso, lower torso, chalna staircase mein ho jata hai, but upper torso, so resistance bands, wall push-ups, simple stuff, or you can go to the gym or you can do heavy power weights, whatever you like, but resistance training to actually build muscle. The third is balance. Again, that's the thing that we tend to miss out. So many of you all who are initiated would know that we tend to lose our balance mechanism, proprioceptive and balance mechanism as we grow older. Naturally, the neuromuscular endings, the nerve muscle endings tend to flag down. And you need to do some balance exercise. And that's why so many Shirsasan photos you can see everywhere I go. Like right now in Arosa in Switzerland, on the Alps, I did a Shirsasan on the ice. So that really, anything. So you need not do a Shirsasan, you can do one leg stand or whatever, but balance training is the third thing. And then weight control is the fourth. And remember, keeping your weight down does not come by doing these things. It's a separate, it happens in the kitchen. It doesn't happen by physical activity. Any of you all who do anything will know that a 10K run will easily get, knocked off by 2 Snicker bars. So you've got to really worry about how you eat and what you eat, because your metabolism is clearly lower. And I think anyone in this group who's above 35, 40 will vouch for this, that earlier they could lose weight like this, and now to lose that 1 kilo, it's such a hard job. So controlling your diet is a separate aspect. Strength building is separate, endurance building is separate, balance building is separate. And if you can work around all these four in your way, don't compete with the best, don't compete with your friend, just compete with your own body and try to become a better version of yourself every year. You can at least stay in the same place, if not get stronger. At least you will not get weaker.
The fourth point you said is very important, because I see a lot of patients who come to the OPD. Being a bariatric surgeon, I see all super obese and obese patients. They say, we don't need anything, but the weight is not going down. We don't need anything. And then when I start counting the calories, it goes to about 4,000 in a day. And then they say, oh, no, we don't need anything.
Ek khakra khau chu ghee sathe bas.
Correct.
And so, I borrowed the famous line from one of your peers, Prashant, the bariatric surgeon, my friend. Vajan hawa se nahi badhta. Like your body doesn't create vajan. So people blame thyroid, they blame menopause, but all that is happening on the side. Ultimately, what you put in is what the weight is all about. So if you can control that, and there's so much resources available in all of us, fats, layers of fats, that is inside. That starvation is all a mind thing. It's not a physical thing.
So Abhay, how does your family deal with your so many absentees, the risks that you take? So I'm sure people must be worried at home. And how do you convince them to go again and again? And this is a question from our audience.
Yeah, so there's a good part and a bad part to this. A good part is that you need a really good family background backing to allow you to do these things. And it would have been very, very easy for me to not do anything if my mom or wife or anyone else would have just said, don't do it, because ultimately you can't, go beyond that. So you need a supportive family who knows you long enough and who knows how your mind thinks, and who knows that if you did 10 surgeries, you'll not be happy. But if you do one mountain or one marathon, you'll be happy. And if they are interested in your habit, luckily I'm blessed with, Amita Kritika, you know her well. She's like the most supportive wife in the world. And she just is a polar apart. Like she doesn't do, she would hate to climb 2 floors, but she knows that I need this. This is my fuel. So she allows me and she supports me. And that's like a good thing. So does my mom. They crib, and then they say, okay, go. But on the flip side, the bad part of this is that sometimes you got to muscle your way around and you say, I have to do this. And if I don't do this, it's not going to work for me. So it's often rather a selfish motive, because when you're gone, clearly you're not there for that many days. And there's a risk that you may never come back also. I mean, it's oversaying it. But my friend Murad Lalar went to Everest and he had to, he submitted the Everest, and one of our troop leaders, Jayesh, every time they have to sign a death warrant kind of when they go. And that's a selfish thing, because see, once you have the mindset to go in the mountain, you really you're not worried about dying. I mean, it's too harsh a thing to say, but really you kind of factored that in. But other people around you could really suffer without you. So I think that's the bad part of this. And somewhere down, you got to be a little bit walled and little unemotional about it. Otherwise, you just be, going to Alibag and going to Elephanta and then, doing the safe things. And I think one of the answers I tell myself is that, look, sitting here, the wall could fall on my head, or when I'm cycling, a car could knock me over. I could fall off a cliff. So what is the level that you want to not take a risk? And I mean, again, in a philosophical way, you'd rather live less but live well than live long but live poorly. Like, I'd hate it if I lived till 90, but from 75 to 90, I was on a catheter in some ICU with some, I mean, I'm just, so if you think philosophically, it's not such a bad thing that, you enjoy your life to the fullest because you don't know kal kya hai, so you may as well. What do you think? Am I saying too much?
No. This is absolutely.
People are loving your responses. People are loving your response.
I think because this I've thought through so many times. Okay, I have a loving family with me, and I've thought through this so many times. But I think time and again it keeps coming back to the same thing. That if you died at 65, but you've really killed those 65 years, you've lived your life well. But I mean, I think that.
Totally.
All about serious. I'll just take a small thing. I think we'll be on a little lighter note because we're talking about all serious stuff here. Any particular funny incidents or maybe some very remembering moment where you can't forget or something very interesting which you would like to share?
Everything is funny about this kind of a life. No, everything is funny. You just keep laughing at your own inabilities. You keep when we were attempting one of the summits. I mean, this is not a specific funny incident, but just to give you like what keeps you feeling exasperated in a way rather than funny. You see people who all through the course you felt they were chillar pillar, kacha limbu, and then you're struggling at the peak, and these guys just walk through. I mean, I went to this the Sikh pilgrimage at Valley of Flowers. I forget the name, and at Valley of Flowers is a very high up Sikh pilgrimage, and we were all dressed up and walking up in best shoes and struggling, and these Sikh ladies in chappals, sometimes without chappals, wearing a dupatta with stuff on their head, really potly typical. They were like walking up as though they were walking in their hall. So that kind of brings a smile to your face that there is no it kind of deflates your ego. I think while you asked me, I thought about a funny incident. So we have this music group, right? And the music group used to play in Jazz by the Bay, which is in our neighborhood.
Right.
And so many of our friends would come there, and we would all be like in full rock gear because it would be like a Western rock. And I remember Amita and me, we were playing, and we were in this whole gear, and a patient ended up there because it was in our neighborhood. And that person had only seen Amita in saris and me in jackets at that time. Like, aren't you Dr. So-and-so? Like almost alleging, aren't you that doctor? And Amita like, no, that's my twin sister. You got it wrong. She's very studious. You must have seen her in sari. And you wing it there. So that was the time. I mean, it also brings to light that was the time when doctors were not accepted in this form. If your doctor is playing the guitar on stage, there's something seriously wrong. But today, I think we profess and we just tell our patient, and so many patients, I mean 50% of my patients come and say, I heard you play the guitar. Because they all go on social media, they look out for you, and it's in a good way. I think it's become more acceptable that a doctor can do stuff other than medicine, and I think that's a big change that has happened in the Indian environment.
That's really nice. That's really nice.
That's great. So we up to the last question.
Yes.
Over to you, Prashant.
So, no, it's not a question. Rather than it could be a request, because I see so many instruments in the background. Everybody must be observing you. That there are so many. There's a keyboard. There are so many instruments. And the way you were saying you used to play, you would be the vocalist and the guitarist. So, can you play something for all of us? It would be a very
but keep that as a closing thing, because everyone will run away. Because I'm really we call our group only the flunkies, because no one then can expect, because we are all struggling. None of us
He's good.
None of us have professionally learned, so we just we just do our thing, and so that keyboard there, I've never learned the piano. I've learned peti, like a Marathi kid. I learned peti in the house, but now last week actually I learned the ukulele. And so I try to keep, just as you work on your left hemisphere, you got to work hard on your right hemisphere also. and vice versa, because the soft skills tend to round up your personality. So on one end, you got to do music or do reading or whatever else, and on one end, you got to do this. So maybe I will play something, and because and because you had warned me before, I put the capo in the right note, and I even have the right song for the occasion.
That's good.
Hold on to your seats. There's a place in your heart, and you know that it is love. In this place could be brighter than tomorrow. You really try. There's no reason feeling bad. In this place, you feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there if you care enough for the living. Make a little space, make a better place in the world. Make this a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. Heal the world.
Wow.
Wow.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Flop music. If proper musicians hear it, but it's fun. It just keeps on your, keeps you steady and calm.
Enjoyed it. It was lovely.
We really enjoyed it. So many people are actually feeling कि अरे आज घर पे जाके मैं पहले ये मेरा पुराना गिटार बाहर निकालूंगा, मैं पुराना अपना कुछ फ्लूट बजाऊंगा. So everybody must be having that particular thing in the mind. That is what the motto of UMANG is also. That should just lit that spark in you, which was hidden or maybe hidden for a very long time. And this is how it should be. Really, really awesome session with you.
So there were some
everybody's
questions
falling
here.
short of words.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Dr. Rajesh Kodakar, who is a friend of my wife Amita, he said, is intermittent fasting a good way of losing weight? But I think I follow that myself. I don't know. Maybe Prashant, you should be able to tell us. Rajesh, I do that. I do intermittent fasting for like 16 hours or sometimes 18 hours. And that becomes a default thing because of the work profile. No, there's no way you don't get time to eat. So it becomes easy. But
and then it also works in a schedule, in fact, because they got an OPD in which we have to sit for 8 hours, 10 hours. So it's always good to have something in the at home and then only go back and just have something. But I don't know whether it's good because people say that thing also may not be good for your health because of also all those factors. So
I'll come in here and tell you what I read or what I understand is that when you fast, the body tends to eat up your muscle before your fat. So it's a false belief that your fat is getting burned because you're fasting. And unless you work out, unless you make your muscles demand more, the muscles don't stay put. So it's a combination of fasting along with muscle strengthening at the same time, parallelly, that will help fat burn. I think that's the way it goes. Prashant,
that's true, because if you just keep on fasting and don't do any kind of exercise, with every amount of fat you burn, there's 1% of muscle loss also which is happening. So to avoid that muscle loss, you need to do endurance training. You need to do some kind of exercise. That's really true. Because a lot of patients who come, they say, we do intermittent fasting and they just keep idle, do nothing. But they don't understand they are losing the fat also. They're losing the muscle also along with the fat. That's also an important statement.
Big problem. Like when I did keto diet, I almost fell out because I just couldn't bike, I couldn't run. And then I realized that there was something missing. So I think there's more to it than just fasting.
Correct.
It's got it, Aga. Thank you.
So we're good?
To the end of our session. Do you have any questions, Abhay, to send to you personally?
No, I mean, I can see, how do you wake up in the morning? It's hard, but you just make it a routine. And the first thing you want to do, they said the common COVID symptom is that you don't feel like getting up. I have COVID since the last 20 years. Because every time I wake up, I don't want to get up. I want to sleep because... But again, the mantra that I read, I'm overshooting time, but this is very important. I used to sleep 8 hours even before my MBBS exams. And then I met a Swami in Rishikesh who was a doctor. He's a JJ intern who ran away and became a Swami Nishchalananji. So he's actually a JJ doctor.
Oh, wow.
Who didn't finish his internship, so he doesn't have the degree. And then I asked him, how does he sleep so less? Because he also used to have his OPD there, right? OPD means not patients, but people seeking all the godly advice. And they would also be like in our OPD, trying to get in and taken appointments. So I said, how do you sleep for such little time? And he said that there are 3 types of tiredness in your life. The first tiredness, which you commonly face, is the tiredness of repetition or tiredness of boredom, where you're doing the same thing again and again. You're seeing back pains. I'm seeing people with problems. Someone else is, cleaning the house or whatever. And that needs a distraction as an antidote and not sleep as an antidote. So if you distract yourself, you go for a run, play music, watch a Jackie Chan movie, or do something, for different denomination, you get your antidote, and that is sorted. The second is a physical tiredness of, physically running around, driving, walking, operating, whatever. The antidote to that is muscle rest and nutrition, and not sleep. And then the third is a mental tiredness, which happens very rarely, and your complication in a patient or in a relationship or whatever, which actually drains your mind out, which really needs you to switch your mind off to refurbish. And that is a lesser part of your tiredness in the big picture. So on a daily basis, you can sleep much less. Now, what I'm saying is coming out of logic, but it's certainly not out of science, because Amita is a sleep specialist and he tells me that, 7.5 hours is a must. But I don't know. I sleep for 5 hours and I'm very good to go.
This was somebody, Dr. Shilpa has a question of, they're asking for the schedule for the day. What is your schedule for the day?
No, schedule is regardless. I try to get up at 4:45, 6, and be out on the road at 6, at least 4 days or 5 days a week. Because unless you do that, you're not in the right mental space to handle the day. Because the day goes just haywire. I work 5 days a week, so it's packed. Like so let's say 6 to 8 is activities. 9 o'clock I'm in theater, so 9 to 1 is surgery every day. And then 1 to 6, 7, 8 is OPD. So it squeezes you dry, and by the end of it, you're like, oh, what's going on? But then I come back and I make sure that I spend some time either with academics. So going back to the email, trying to, because I've now become the chair of the Asia Pacific Spine AO Foundation. So that's like a huge, so I try to do that, or I do some music or learn some, so kind of soft skill to finish the day. And then Saturday, Sunday is totally off. And I think that's the schedule. I think all of us must be going through this, no? All busy doctors, you guys.
Correct. So many of us who are listening to this would be definitely taking the entire session, because we take some few points of the session, the important points, but the entire session has to be taken. Each and every word, each and every sentence was so important. And everybody actually needs to abide by what you said, and should take vacations on time, should be very good and very true to your health as well. At the same time, work, academics, everything should be balanced. Nothing, just one particular thing should be stressed upon. Everything should be actually having a balance, and everything should be taken into consideration. That's a very valid thing. And I hope everybody must have taken all the positive aspects from this session, and they would imbibe in them and definitely go back and do something. I'm going to go and get my guitar out after a long time. That is for sure.
Monitor whether you follow or no.
Yes, definitely.
What Dr. Abhay has said, that is, along with your patients, you have to give yourself also importance. You are the most important person in your life. And if you don't keep yourself happy, you are not going to be able to function in life. And he is doing it wonderfully. And all our audience has enjoyed the session very much. So wonderful talk, Dr. Abhay.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be among such great minds and learn so much from you all. And I hope that this sets off another series of exciting UMANG sessions.
And
which
you
I can attend.
accepted our invitation at a very short notice. And it has been an excellent, wonderful learning session today.
The pleasure was of all ours. The pleasure was all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.